Jeff Porcaro, famous for beats like Rosanna and Africa. Bernard Purdie, who inspired Porcaro, whose halftime shuffles brought songs like Home at Last and Babylon Sisters to life. John Bonham, whose beats on songs like Fool in the Rain and Good Times, Bad Times inspired many drummers later on. And let's not forget Clyde Stubblefield of James Brown fame. Get him, drummer! Get him, drummer! Or David Garibaldi of Tower of Power. What do all these funk icons have in common? A widely overlooked, widely misunderstood detail of modern drumming called ghost notes. Those extra notes you play on the snare drum that are way softer than the actual beat. They're like the connective tissue. Even when you can't hear them, they're knitting the beat together, giving it funkiness. Well, today we'll cover the ghost notes that underpin some of the funkiest styles of drumming, past and present. We'll talk about some common roadblocks that make playing ghost notes harder and what to do about them. I'm Nate, and this channel is called The 80/20 Drummer, and it's a place where we dive a little deeper into a drum topic we think that maybe has been discussed to death. But has it? Well, today we'll find out. Today on 80/20, ghost notes. The secret of funk masters like Porcaro, Purdie, and Garibaldi. Stay tuned. And folks, quick sponsor message. If you dig the lesson and you want to learn some of the beats in this lesson, there are going to be a lot. You don't have to transcribe those on your own. We've done it for you. We've made you a completely free workbook. You can get that by clicking the link below the player and telling us where to send it on the next page. With that, let's go on to the lesson. Let's start with a beat that probably caused many of you to click on this video, and I don't want to keep you waiting. Here's Jeff Porcaro playing one of the most famous funk shuffles in drum history, Toto's Rosanna. And here I am, trying to play it with a key detail missing. It sounds a little antiseptic, a little boring, right? And part of that is because nobody can play it like Jeff. But another part is I removed one of the key things that makes this beat dance, the ghost notes. Here they are added back in a little slower. I'll move the lead hand to my thigh so you can hear them isolated. Hear how they're softer than the rim shots and make kind of a backbone so you can feel the subdivision? How they add a little life to the groove? Well, it turns out ghost notes are not easy. To illustrate just how much more complex the beat gets when I add embellishments from both hands, I'll play everything on the snare and I'll play simultaneous strokes as flams. Here's the beat with just the bass drum and backbeat. And here it is with all that connective tissue back in. And when I move the lead hand to the hats, the whole matrix of all those little notes needs to lock up. Now, let's talk about how. The first challenge of playing good ghost notes is just getting them in the right place. That's challenging enough when you can bounce them, but what about when you can't? If we take Jeff's beat and slow it way down, we can no longer bounce the ghost strokes, especially if we keep them soft. Why does this matter if we're not going to be playing the beat really slowly? It's important to be able to control the bounce at a slower tempo, because your control will be better faster. Besides, not all shuffles are as fast as Rosanna. Here's Babylon Sister from Steely Dan, with the great Bernard Purdie on drums. Babylon Sister, shake it. Babylon Sister. Try playing that song and see if the ghost notes feel solid or if they feel a little floaty. The key here is being able to articulate the strokes with the wrist stroke at a faster speed than the slowest speed at which you can bounce them. To do this, I'll just do slow, soft tap strokes with my left hand. At this speed, I'm using almost all wrist to initiate the stroke, and the butt of the stick comes to rest on the butt of my hand between each tap. Now I'll start speeding up, keeping the strokes soft. Eventually, I'll have to start bouncing them. When I'm bouncing the strokes, the butt of the stick doesn't contact my hand between every stroke. Instead, it stays suspended, and my fingers give it a gentle push, just enough to keep bouncing. Now I'll slow down again, just below the speed where it stops bouncing. Then I'll speed up again. The goal is to find the event horizon between articulated wrist stroke and bounced finger stroke, and just kind of stay there for a while. This should give you greater confidence. Next, let's incorporate the whole kit. I'm going to play triplets with the kick and hats on the downbeat and ghost strokes on the second and third triplets. As before, I'm going to keep the ghost strokes soft and start slow, too slow to bounce. I gradually increase until I'm bouncing, then try to hover around that tempo where one turns into the other. Okay, let's take a break and appreciate more of Mr. Bernard Purdie. On Steely Dan's song Home at Last, listen to how he plays the ghost strokes.
Still I remain tied to the mast.
Just like Jeff, he's interplaying between the hats and the ghost strokes on the snare.
Home at last.
Hear how it gives everything a nice, settled, danceable feeling? Let's check out one more thing, the rim shots. The backbeat, big, full, and clear. And the ghost notes, much lower volume. Let's look at how to practice this. Starting again with a triplet groove, let's see what happens if we add the snare backbeat in. We have to leave out the last triplet before the rim shot, so we have time to get the stick up, which gives rise to this pattern, which I'll call our basic halftime shuffle pattern. When we're practicing this, there are a few details to nail. First, if we look at the overhead, I'm trying to keep the beat of my stick more or less in the center of the drum. Even though we can break this rule later, we should be able to control the sound, and this is kind of the default sound. Second, I'm trying to get a very consistent sound with the rim shot. If we watch from the front, I'm using a medium-high stick height. This doesn't have to blow your eardrums out, but it should be solid. Finally, I'm trying to be super consistent with the subdivision so that every note is the same distance from every other note. Sometimes it's helpful to practice with a metronome on every triplet, which I'm not going to do here because that's a whole extra thing I have to set up. Let's go back to Jeff. Watch this famous live clip of Rosanna from Montreux Jazz Festival, and check his volume. It's not prog rock, but it's also not a whisper. He's hitting. Now, let's go on to the other thing that makes Jeff's beat on Rosanna and Bernard's beat on Home at Last so special. The hats. Let's play the shuffle pattern on the hats with the lead hand while we play quarters with the bass drum. For a lesson that goes deeper into the technique I like to use for this, click this card on your screen. And if you're not super confident with that technique, this is optional for now. Now, to complete the Jeff beat, we'll add the ghost notes and rim shot back on the snare. But notice that I leave out more of the last triplets and only hit the hands together on the rim shots. The left hand is playing the second triplet as a ghost note between the hi-hat shuffle pattern. The last step to make Jeff's iconic shuffle come to life is the clave pattern with the kick drum. Nailing the coordination here could be its own whole 4 weeks of study, but getting it sloppily, then refining, is a valid way to inch your way into it. Time for another break? Let's check out another icon of funk drumming, David Garibaldi. I'm not sure Garibaldi gets as much credit as he deserves for inventing linear funk with terraced dynamics, but his students include Thomas Pridgeon, and the style he spearheaded has become a part of how many modern players play. Let's check out just one of Garibaldi's iconic drum grooves, the Oakland stroke. Here's another called What Is Hip. To learn any of these grooves could be an hour worth of material. But let's take a look at how ghost notes can help us get inside this style of playing. One of Garibaldi's favorite exercises was simply to play a paradiddle between the hands, with the lead hand on the hats and the other hand on the snare like this. Both hands accent the first note of their group of 4. When we get to the snare, it becomes a rim shot. For now, let's just play 1 and 3 on the kick drum. Let's go to the overhead again and go over the important points of the ghost notes here. As before, I'm trying to play with the stick beads in the center of the head, and I'm trying to keep the subdivisions even. Let's go to the front camera so we can see the difference in stick heights. Nice solid rim shot on the back beats, and less than an inch away from the head on the ghost strokes. If you're trying to play this style and it doesn't feel or sound clean, go back and review these steps. There are a bunch of funky things you can do with the kick, like playing it on different 16th partials, but for now let's keep it at quarters. What we won't keep simple, however, is Garibaldi's other favorite thing to do with these, permutations. Basically any pattern he could come up with, he liked to transpose it to every part of the 16th. I'll do a quick demo here. The really funky thing here, in my opinion, is keeping the kick drum pattern fixed and actually moving the hands. Let me show you how to do that. All of this is just warm-up, because now we're going to create a Garibaldi-esque beat from these source materials. I start off by playing the first position permutation of the paradiddle, then the second position one. I'll play that for a few minutes to get it comfortable. Then I'll shift the kick drum to this funky pattern, which fills in the gap in the second bar. Finally, if we want to make this a 4-bar phrase, I can create this little second half phrase with 8s on the hats. Now I'll jack up the tempo. You can improvise with this type of thing, and when you start moving the kick around and the hands to the toms, the utility of these terrace dynamics becomes apparent. And that's how you get the gig. So, did we learn anything? We crash coursed you in 2 idioms around the humble ghost note. Porcaro-esque shuffles and Garibaldi-esque linear funk. Not bad for a day's work. Anyway, if you enjoyed this one, leave a comment below and let us know. And if you'd like a completely free transcription of everything I played in this lesson, just click the link below the player and tell us where to send it on the next page. Dudes, it's been real. Always enjoy these. See you again real soon in another Lesson of the Week.